Hi everyone, I am Dr. K. Sai Prasad Reddy. Welcome to the subject software testing. Today we are going to discuss about the test plan document, which is very important. Today's topic is a very important topic, and if you attend the interview, you will get at least 50 to 60% of the questions from this topic only. That means if you have asked 10 questions in interview, out of 10 questions, 5 to 6 questions will be only from this topic. This is very important topic. And now we will discuss what is a test plan, why we need to plan, and structure of a test plan. Right? So please pay attention. It is a very important topic. How to achieve a good testing? If we want to do the good testing, how to achieve? Simple. Start planning early in the project. Prepare a test plan. Identify the objectives. Document the objectives in the test plan. These are the steps to achieve good testing. Start planning early in the project. That means, what is the early stage in the project? Requirements gathering. That means, the testing activities should start from the beginning of the project. That is from the requirements gathering itself only. Then, you means project managers. Generally, test managers or senior test leads are responsible to design this test plan document. Predominantly, test managers will design this test plan document. Otherwise, in some companies, senior test leads will prepare this test plan document. And they have to identify the objectives of testing. See, all the requirements, there will be some say 500 requirements. So for each and every requirement, you have to do the testing. Before doing the testing, you have to identify the objectives of each and every requirement for testing. And then you have to include all these objectives in the test plan documentation. These are the 4 steps to achieve good testing. Right? Next. So why we need the test plan documentation? Simple. Because see, during this testing activities on the project, so many testings will be repeatedly done. There will be much repeatable activities. And also, you have to do the testing in a larger scale. If you are doing the testing in the larger scale, you have to control the testing activities. If you are not going to control the activities, then you cannot achieve the 100% testing. If there is no control, you cannot do the testing properly. And adequate coverage, the coverage should be full. If there are 500 requirements, all these 500 requirements will be tested according to the test plan documentation. Right? So in interview they may ask you, why we need test plan? These points you have to enhance. These points you have to explain. And what is the importance of this test plan? Because test planning process is a critical step in the testing process. Without test plan documentation, the test itself cannot be verified. What you are doing, what you are testing, what you are not testing. Like this you have to verify, right? So, if we are having a proper documentation in our hands, then it will become very easy to verify. And coverage cannot be analyzed. Without proper documentation, you cannot analyze the coverage just by assuming. Without proper documentation in our hands, without any written script in our hands, just simply by keeping all the things in our mind, in our brain, and thinking like this, without the documentation, the coverage cannot be analyzed. And the test is not repeatable also. So this is the importance of planning. Right? Now, see what this test plan documentation contains. What this test plan documentation explains, or what this test plan documentation covers. Basically, the 4 things we are there in test plan documentation. That is, who to test, and what to test, and when to test, and how to test. Who to test means, say for example, in a testing team there are 20 software test engineers. Out of all these 20 software test engineers, which software test engineer has to do which testing? So which software test engineer has to do the testing of which requirements? That is who to test. What to test? For each and every software test engineer in the team, they have to get the clarity what they are going to test. And then after getting the clarity that what they are going to test, then immediately what will come into picture? When they have to do the testing. So what to test and who to test are confirmed. Then when to do the testing? Because there will be particular schedules. According to the schedules only you have to do the testing. What do you mean by the schedule? Start date and end date. So according to the schedule only they have to do the testing. That is when to test according to schedules. And how to test? See, for example, in the project there are 500 requirements. All the 500 requirements are not tested in the same way. There are different types of testings. Say for example, one requirement may demand 5 types of testings. Other requirement may demand only 3 types of testings. Some more requirements may demand only 1 type of testing. So then how to do the testing? That will be included in the test plan documentation. No need to worry. Everything will be there in the test plan documentation. Even though you are a fresher, or if you are having a 1 year, 2 years or 3 years of experience, you need not to worry. Then what to test, when to test and how to test. Everything will be there in the test plan documentation. Right? So, this is the importance of a test plan documentation. Now, these test plans need to identify the materials that are required for testing. What are the materials? Like resources, softwares, hardwares, and any other things. These are all the materials that are required for testing. Here the material means not only the hardware. So they have to identify the softwares which are required for testing, and they have to identify the hardwares that are required for testing. They have to identify the resources, that is team, for testing. How many software test engineers are required? How many freshers are required? How many senior software test engineers are required? How many leads are required? Like this. So all this will come into picture for materials. And what test will be done? That means what you have to do the testing, and in which order the test will be done. So all these things will be in the test plan documentation. Right? The order and what you have to do the testing. What you have to do the testing and order. Right? So it is a little bit lengthy topic. Right? So it will take more time to complete this test plan structure. Please pay more attention. I am explaining this test plan documentation purely on the real-time basis, because I worked as a test manager and I worked in the industry for 13 years. Based on my experience, I am explaining the test plan structure in a real-time concept only. Right? Yeah. This test plan document will be prepared according to IEEE 829 standard. Right? Fine. So these are all these sections in the test plan documentation. that is a test plan identifier, introduction, test items or integration components, features to be tested, features not to be tested, test approach, items pass-fail criteria, entry criteria and exit criteria, suspension criteria and resumption requirements, test deliverables, environmental needs, roles and responsibilities, staffing and training needs, task and schedule, risks and contingencies, defect management, sign off and approval. Right? So these are all the different sections that we are going to explain. See here, some sections I am giving only the outline, and some sections I am explaining in depth. Because why I am giving outline for some sections means the sections for which I am giving outline need further sessions, in-depth sessions. That's why at this time I am giving only the outline. Going forward, for all these sections which I am giving only the outline will be explained in depth in future sessions. Right? So now see here, I am going to explain each and every section in test plan documentation. Test plan identifier. Each and every test plan will have the identification number. Not only test plan documentation, each and every testing document will have its own identification number, ID number. So ID number will be assigned to this particular test plan documentation. And also they will mention the author of the document and the history of this documentation and on which date they have prepared this test plan documentation, version numbers, etc. All these will be there in the test plan identifier section. Next, introduction. So under the introduction, they will explain about the project and the background of the project, and also they will explain the details of this document, that is a test plan documentation, and what are the strategies that they are going to implement for the testing. So this section also describes the purpose and the scope of the testing. This is about introduction. Test items. What do you mean with the test items? The items which are needed for testing. The items which are to be tested. Yeah, items which are to be tested are called test items. So you have to identify the test items. After identifying the test items, you have to determine the test objectives and the individual elements to be tested. See, for example, say there is one requirement for login functionality. So you have to identify the item to be tested. That is, login functionality is the test item. After identifying this login functionality as a test item, then you have to determine the test objective. What is the objective of doing this testing on the login functionality? And also you have to mention the individual elements to be tested. All this will be under the test items section. Right? Next, features to be tested and features not to be tested. So what do you mean by the features to be tested? This features to be tested is also called as in scope. Features not to be tested are out of scope. First we will explain about the features to be tested. So what do you mean by the features to be tested? For example, if the project is having 500 requirements, out of all these 500 requirements, how many requirements now we are going to test? Say for example, we have planned for 400 requirements testing. All these 400 requirements will come under features to be tested. Here the feature or the functionality which are supposed to be tested, right? See, all these 400 requirements, out of 500 requirements, we planned for 400 requirements to test. All these 400 requirements will come under in-scope testing or features to be tested. So, describe the items or group of items to be tested. Each feature which we are going to test should be assigned an ID number, because for each and every feature we have to assign the ID number, and for each and every feature we have to design the test cases. This is features to be tested. And features not to be tested. That means, take the same example. If there are 500 requirements in the project, at this time we are going to test only 400 features. The rest of 100 features we are not going to test at this time. In future we may test. As of now, we are not going to test 100 requirements as per our plan. In future we may test those 100 requirements also. These are called features not to be tested. Excuse me. These 100 requirements are called out of scope. Right? So now, the software testing team should know what the features to be tested, what are the features not to be tested. Because they have to concentrate on features to be tested only. They are not supposed to concentrate, or they are not supposed to worry about the features not to be tested, which are out of scope. Right? So list out all the features that are not to be tested for a specific item or a group of items with appropriate reasons, like unavailability of testing environment or out of scope of the contract. See, what do you mean with the out of scope of the contract? See, the contract means the agreement between the client and the vendor. In that particular contract, some features are which are not to be tested at this stage will be given to some other contract. Right? So that means the features which are not included in the contract, the features which are out of scope of the contract will not be tested. That is called features not to be tested. For example, all this performance, example I am telling, only example for your better understanding. Performance testing is given to some other company. Apart from this performance testing, all the testing activities will be performed in the same company. Like this. Say for example, if the client is ABC and the vendor is XYZ. Vendor means the company which is designing and developing and testing the software project. The client ABC is not giving the performance testing activity to this XYZ company. He is going to give that performance testing to some other company. Yes, this will happen. So this is the explanation or the meaning of out of the scope of contract. Right? So this is about the features to be tested, features not to be tested. And the test approach, that means how to do testing. This section explains you how to do testing. Right? So the types of testings. So for example, say, if you take the one requirement, say login functionality. For your better understanding, I am taking this login functionality as an example. The login functionality may demand 5 types of testings, like GUI testing or functional testing or security testing or database testing, like this. So only for the login functionality you have to perform 5 types of testings. And some other requirement, some other functionality, some other feature may demand only 3 types of testings. It depends upon the requirement. How many types of testings that we are supposed to perform will depend upon that particular requirement in the project. The software test engineer should know what type of testings that they have to perform on each and every requirement. If and only if the software test engineers, each and every software test engineer knows what type of testings that they have to perform on each and every feature or the functionality or on the requirement, then only they can go forward. Otherwise, they cannot. So, the types of testings should be mentioned in the test plan documentation. So, specify the types of testing for the system testing, non-functional quality attributes like performance or reliability or usability, etc. And the tests are derived from the functional specifications. That means all the tests will be derived from functional specifications or requirements. Right? And say here, and regarding these 500 requirements which we have taken as an example, let's assume that in our project there are 500 requirements. In our project there are 500 requirements. Out of all these 500 requirements, how many requirements has to be tested manually, and how many requirements are supposed to be tested with using a tool, automation tool? That should be a clarity. There should be a clarity, right? So this will be also mentioned under the section test approach in test plan documentation, right? This is section, just I am giving only the outline. This section we will explain by taking the examples in the future. And items of pass-fail criteria. That means for each and every functionality, for each and every requirement, we have to prepare the test plan documentation, and we have to execute the, we have to design the test cases, and we have to execute the test cases. So here item means the requirement or the functionality or the feature. So when can we say that particular functionality is pass, and when can we say that particular functionality is fail? Here the criteria, the meaning of criteria is nothing but the condition. Under which condition we can say that particular requirement is pass? Under which condition we can say that particular functionality is fail? See, the test case execution results should be captured after executing the test case. Once the test case results are captured, then the software test engineer has to compare both the expected results and the actual results. So if both the expected results and the actual results are same, then we can say that that item is pass, that feature is pass, that functionality is working properly, it is pass. If the expected results and the actual results are not the same, or that means if there is a mismatching between the expected results and the actual results, then the item is said to be failed, or the feature is said to be failed, or the functionality is said to be failed. This we will explain in depth during the designing and execution of test cases. No need to worry. Next, entry criteria and exit criteria. See, first we will discuss about entry criteria and then we will go for exit criteria. What do you mean with the criteria? Criteria is nothing but the set of conditions. This entry criteria will explain when to accept that particular project for the testing. That is called entry criteria. Right? See, now this entry criteria will have all this criteria, will have all these conditions. Say approved and frozen requirements document. That means before starting the system testing, the requirements document should get approval and it should be freezed. This topic, this concept I have already explained in the previous sessions. Approved functional specifications and use cases. All the functional specifications or the use cases should get approved. See here, the system testing will be performed based on the two concepts. One is the system testing will be performed based on the requirements. if the based on the requirements, if you are doing testing, then it is called requirements based testing. Sometimes the testing will be performed, the testing will be planned based on the use cases. If the system testing is performing based on the use cases, then it is called use case based testing. That will be decided either whether it is a requirements based testing or use case based testing will be decided by your test managers and the management. You no need to worry, right? And integration testing has been performed by the development team, because if and only if the integration testing is completed successfully, then only the system testing will come into picture. Then only we can start system testing. Entry criteria explains you the eligibility for system testing. The eligibility conditions for system testing. And the build should be stable. That means whatever the project, what do you mean with the build? Build is nothing but the .exe file. That is a project. So if we want to start the system testing on this particular project, on this particular build, so it should be stable. If and only if the build is stable, then only we will proceed for system testing. Otherwise, we will not proceed for system testing. We will stop. That is called build stability. How we will come to know whether the build is stable or not? By doing smoke testing. Smoke testing is one type of testing. By doing the smoke testing on this particular project, on this particular build, then we can confirm whether the build is stable or not. This smoke testing is also called as build verification testing. Why it is called build verification testing? Because we are doing the verification of the build, whether the build is stable or not. That's why it is called as build verification testing. And this is also called as build acceptance testing. Why it is called build acceptance testing? Because we have to decide whether the build should be acceptable for system testing or not. So this smoke testing or BVT or BAT we will explain in depth in future sessions. And approved design documentation that is consistent with the requirements, and approved test plan documentation, and approved test cases and a formal sign off of the same, because all the test cases should get approval and sign off. And testing the database, testing database has been seeded with some data. What do you mean by seeding? Seeding is nothing but injecting. That means if the software testing team, I am explaining this point. This is very important. The testing database has to be seeded. That means before starting the system testing, some data should be seeded, should be injected, should be entered into the database, testing database. Then only we can do testing. That is called seeding of the data into testing database. Right? Now, testing timelines, estimations and the resources and the tasks are reviewed and approved. See all the timelines for the testing activities, all the estimations for the testing, and all the resources and the tasks should be reviewed and also should get approved. Then only we will do system testing. And the testing environment should be ready and stable prior to start of the test execution. If and only if the testing environment is ready, if and only if the testing environment is stable, then only we will able to start the system testing. Otherwise, we cannot do system testing. We cannot start the system testing. And all code drops are frozen and stable prior to start system testing. See, if we want to start the system testing, then the coding should be freezed and also the coding should be stable. Then only we will start system testing, right? So these are all the exam conditions for the entry criteria. And the exit criteria. What do you mean with the exit criteria? Exit criteria will explain you when to stop system testing. So exit criteria will explain you the conditions to stop system testing, right? So mainly the exit criteria explains you when to stop testing. Yeah. Now all the high priority test cases are executed with no outstanding severity 1, 2, 3 defects. That means, see for example, if there are 1000 test cases, all these 1000 test cases are not the same. All these 1000 test cases are divided according to the priority. Some test cases will have the high priority, some test cases will have the medium priority, and some test cases will have the low priority. Now, when to stop testing? If all the high priority test cases are executed and there is no outstanding severity 1, 2, 3 defects, then only we can stop the testing. That means not only for the high priority, even the medium priority test cases will be also executed and the low priority test cases also executed. But predominantly all the high priority test cases should be executed. This is a mandatory, right? Yeah. Next, any open severity 4 or 5 defects should be noted in the open issues list document. See, even though, see, the defects are divided into severity levels. For each and every defect, the severity level will be assigned. See, for example, severity 1 means a very high severity. Severity 2 means a high severity. Severity 3 means medium severity. Severity 4 is low severity. Severity 5 is, those are the minor defects, like this. So this topic we will take in a separate session. Just I am giving only the outline for this section. So all this severity 1, 2, 3 defects, there should not be any severity 1, 2, 3 defects. And if there are any severity levels of 4 and 5 defects, so all this should be mentioned in a open issues list document. Open issues document, it's also one type of document. I will explain this topic. And the successful and approved test cases and the results, all documentation should be approved and the team sign off and approval prior to UAT. Before going to UAT, we have to get sign off and approval, right? This is exit criteria. Suspension criteria and the resumption requirements. What do you mean by the suspension? Stopping temporarily. That means sometimes the testing team has to suspend system testing. That means the testing team has to stop system testing temporarily. This is called suspension. So, when this testing will be suspended and when this testing will be resumed, the testing will be suspended if the build is unstable. See, when can we say that build is unstable? If all the major functionalities are not working properly, listen to me carefully. If the major functionalities are not working properly, then we can say that the build is unstable. If the major functionality itself is not working, then we cannot proceed for testing. If the major functionalities itself are not working properly, then we have to stop the testing temporarily. That means we have to suspend the testing. And when this resumption will happen, if the build is stable, then the resumption will happen. Right? See, if the build is unstable, testing will be suspended. And once the testing team receives a stable build, then the testing activities will be resumed. So that means if the build is unstable, we have to suspend, we have to stop the testing temporarily and we have to send back that build to the development team. And again the development team will rectify that major issues and again they will send that build to the system testing. Again we will do the testing. That is called smoke testing. That is called build acceptance testing or build verification testing. Right? So, to decide whether this build is stable or not, right? We will do smoke testing or BVT or BAT, right? So, if the build is said to be stable, then the testing will be resumed. This is called suspension criteria and resumption requirements. The next is test deliverables. What are the test deliverables? That is nothing but the testing artifacts. What are the artifacts? Documents. That means, what are the documents that are required for the system testing or testing? So, all these documentations are called test deliverables. Test deliverables are nothing but testing artifacts. That is nothing but the documents which are required and designed for the testing process. So, all these tested deliverables will be mentioned in this section in test plan documentation. What are the different tested deliverables? Say requirements document, use cases, GA screens, designs and markups, test plan documentation, test and evaluation strategy document, minutes of meeting, test scenarios, test conditions, input test data, DSR, that is a daily status report, WSR, weekly status report, MSR, monthly status report, document defect log report, test cases, defect reporting, build release notes, test summary report, defect summary report, requirements traceability maps, etc., etc., etc. These are all the documents which are required for testing. All these documents should be mentioned under the section tested deliverables in test plan documentation, right? So we will discuss each and every document, designing of each and every document and explanation for each and every document. Going forward, we will discuss, right? These are all called tested deliverables. And the environmental needs. So here, basically, so at the vendor side, there will be a development environment and a testing environment. So the testing environment is an environment in which the testing team will do the testing activities on the project. And see here, what do you mean by the environment? Environment is nothing but the combination of both softwares and hardwares. This is called environment. That means test environment, a testing environment is a combination of softwares as well as hardwares. So on this environment, the software test engineers will do testing. In testing environment, the software test engineers will do testing, right? So here, just I have given only the example. You don't worry about all these things. Just for your understanding, I have given this example. You don't worry about the Windows 2000 professional is outdated and all, and see these versions. You don't worry. Just for your understanding only, I have mentioned here. So, what is the operating system that we are going to use for testing? What is a web server? What is an app server? What is a database that we are using? What is a web server admin site? And what is a configuration management tool that we are using? And what are the different automation tools that we are using? What are the defect reporting tools that we are using? Etc., etc., etc. All these things will be mentioned under the section environmental needs in test plan documentation. If and only if the software test engineer knows about the environment, then only he can go forward for testing. Otherwise, he cannot do testing. See, for each and every software test engineer systems, that's for desktops, they have to install this operating system. They have to install the web servers, app servers, database, web server, configuration management tool, functionality automation tools, and performance tools, and configuration management tools, and defect reporting tools. All these things should be installed in each and every desktops and each and every computers of these test engineers, right? So this is about the environmental needs. So you need not worry. Everything will be mentioned about the testing environment under the section of environmental needs in test plan documentation. See, please keep it in mind, whatever that clarification you need, whatever the things that you need to know, simply you have to open the test plan documentation and you have to read the test plan documentation. That's all. No need to worry anything. Everything will be there clearly. Under roles and responsibilities. So, in software testing team, there will be a test managers and test leads, senior test engineers, software test engineers and freshers and database test engineers and performance test engineers will be there, automation test engineers will be there, like this. So, excuse me. So, in the test plan documentation, under the section of roles and responsibilities, it will be clearly mentioned in a matrix form. So, your test manager or the author of this test plan documentation will prepare the responsibility matrix like this. Just I have given only the example: designation, resources, responsibilities. Designation, test manager. Who is the test manager? Dr. S.P. Reddy is a test manager. What are the responsibilities of this test manager? Acquiring the appropriate resources for the project, provides the directions to the team, management reporting, etc., etc., etc. There will be some tens of reports where responsibilities will be there. Just only I have mentioned for your understanding, that's all. And the senior test engineers, who are the senior test engineers? Ramu, Vardhan, Yashwant. What are their responsibilities? Reviewing of the test cases, execution of the test cases, defect reporting, etc., etc., etc. There will be test lead. And what are the responsibilities of test lead? There will be software test engineers, there will be freshers, and there will be performance test engineers, there will be automation test engineers. For each and every role, clearly they will mention the resources and clearly they will mention the responsibilities. Right? You can check, you can verify what are your responsibilities in a project. Right? So all these responsibilities will be prepared in the form of a matrix and it will be mentioned in the under the section roles and responsibilities in test plan documentation. Right? And the staffing and the training needs. What do you mean with the staffing? Staffing is nothing but acquiring the resources, acquiring the software test engineers. That is hiring the software test engineers into the project. And the training needs. See here, what do you mean by the training needs? See, if there are 20 software test engineers in the project, some may be required domain skills, some may require functional testing tools, some may require training on performance tools, some may require training on configuration management tools, some may require training on defect reporting tools. See, for example, if the project, for the project they are using, say for example, this is a banking project, the domain is banking domain, and if they planned to use tool for defect reporting, each and every company will have their own tools for reporting the defects. Some resources may not having the awareness on this defect reporting tool which they are going to use, which they are going to implement in the project. For those people, they need the training. Some configuration, there are some hundreds of configuration management tools. Some companies will use some configuration management tools. Some companies will use the particular configuration management tools. All the resources, all the software test engineers may not have an idea or may not have an experience in this configuration management tools. For these software test engineers, they need training. Some software, say for example, one software test engineer is there. He is having 4 years of experience. Earlier, during this 4 years of experience, he has worked on the healthcare domain projects. But this project is a banking project. He is not having experience in the banking domain. Of course, he may be having an experience of 4 years in the testing. But in this banking domain projects, this is first time that he is doing testing. Now, he needs the training on the domain skills. Like this, your test manager will identify the appropriate resources and he will hire those resources. That means resources means manpower. He will hire those resources for the project. After hiring the resources into the project, your manager will identify, based on your experience, he will identify what are the training requirements for the team members. Like this, right? Next. Task and schedule. What do you mean with the task? Task is nothing but an activity. What do you mean with the schedule? Start date and end date. So, all these tasks, just I have mentioned only the few. There will be some hundreds of tasks. Just here I have mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 tasks I have mentioned here. There will be a 70 tasks or 80 tasks or 100 tasks. For your understanding only, I have taken only the example, sample. So, what do you mean with the task? Task is nothing but an activity. For each and every activity, there will be a schedule. What do you mean with the schedule? Start date and end date for this task. And who is responsible for this task will be mentioned under the section task and schedules in test plan documentation. For example, preparing the test plan documentation is a task. That is an activity, is a work. What is the start date? 01/01/2021. What is the end date? 12/01/2021. That means within this period, your test lead has to prepare the test plan documentation. Right? This is called a task and schedule. Reviewing of the test plan documentation. This is start date and end date. Who is responsible? Obtaining the sign-offs for the test plan documentation. Start date and end date. Who is responsible? Designing of the test conditions. Start date and end date. Who is responsible? Reviewing of the test conditions. Start date and end date. Who is responsible? Like this. So, under the section of a task and schedules in the test plan documentation, they will mention clearly. Right? And the risks and the contingencies. See, what do you mean with the risk and what do you mean with the contingency? That is, what is the risk description and what is the mitigation for the risk and what is the contingency action? That they will mention. Just I will take only the one example for your understanding. Simple. Say for example, I am taking the risk 2. Risk 2, risk impact is high. That is, impact due to this risk is high. And what is the risk description? This QA team, that is a testing team, is not made aware of updates or the changes to the requirements agreed by the business and the development areas. That means sometimes there will be a change in the requirements. Sometimes there will be an updates in the requirements. So if the testing team or QA team is not made aware of about this changes or updates in the requirements, so obviously it will be a risk. And how to do this mitigation? Consistently, your manager has to communicate with the business development team and they have to update the changes or updates of the requirements, and it should be intimated and it should be communicated properly to all the testing team. Right? And what is the contingency action? The same. So QA team will prepare all the required testing documentation based upon the most recent systems and the business documentation process. Any required updates to the testing documentation will be made as the test team becomes aware of the changes to the documentation. Just to go through this risk contingency action and the risk mitigation and the risk description, you can easily understand. Right? So all the risks here, the risks are of two types. One is project risk, right? Second one is product risk. Product means the risks which are related to the product. And the second type of risks are the risks which are related to the process of the project, right? So these risks and contingencies will be mentioned under the section risks and contingencies in test plan documentation. And the defect management strategy. So, what is the main intention or what is the main goal of testing? To find the defects. And after finding the defects, how to manage the defects. So, this section will explain the detailed things about the defect life cycle and the defect reporting template and whether you are reporting the defects manually or by using tools. This just I am giving only the outline. This is very big topic and I will explain this defect management strategy in future sessions. See, sometimes in some projects they will report the defects manually and some projects they will report the defects by using the tools. Right? So on the defect reporting template, generally this defect reporting template will be designed by using either MS Word or Excel sheet. And what is the defect life cycle? everything will be mentioned under the section defect management strategy, right? So what are the defect report attributes? So project name, that means, so if they are using that in this defect reporting template, that is in the defect reporting document, what are the attributes, what are the elements that we have to add? Project name, module name, defect ID, reference document, defect description, defect reported by, defect reported on, and the status of the defect, priority of the defect, severity of the defect is assigned to whom, and what are the remarks. So all these things we will explain in future sessions going forward. Just I am giving only the outline. This is very big topic. And last section of the test plan documentation is approval and sign off. Simple. So here they will mention the names and the designations of the persons of the project who have to give the approval for this plan. Not only for this plan, for any document, So this is about the test plan documentation, right? Some sections I have explained in depth, some sections I have given only the outline. For those sections which I have given outline, I will explain in depth in future sessions, right? Yeah. So please subscribe my channel, share my videos to all the students groups, and like my videos. Please don't forget or don't hesitate to raise your comments in the comment box. Thank you very much.